Hi, everyone. Forgive me. I haven't slept all night and I sprained my ankle, so I wasn't able to wash my hair, so it looks kind of like crap. But I just wanted to talk to all of you. Um, I'm pretty shaken up about last night, the election results, and I imagine, I know there are millions of Americans all across the country who are feeling the same way, the same pain, the same anger, every horrible feeling, fear, anxiety, worry, and back to anger. It's understandable. We elected a man. We literally elected a man who was pretending to give a blowjob to his microphone, and obviously a whole other slew of things. And I know there are a lot of people wondering, where's God? Why didn't God intervene? To those people, I just want to tell you, God did intervene. He was constantly intervening. He was constantly waving his arms and trying to get our attention and warn us. And too many of us laughed about it or didn't care. So you have to understand that God did as much as he could while still keeping his promise to us of free will. We're not puppets, and God is not a puppet master. He gave us free will to choose or not to follow him. And he's always there trying to guide us. But it's up to us to decide whether or not we're going to follow him. He played on the arrogance and boastfulness of the Heritage Foundation and got them to put their plans for us in a book, bind it up, and distribute it. And we all heard about it. We all know what's in that book. The thing that's so stunning is that almost every single person in the country, including those who voted for him, find that repellent, that Project 2025 repellent, loathe it. It is, I think it only has 4% approval. And still people chose to vote for him. He whispered in the ears of generals who never, ever speak up on political matters because they believe that if you're in the military, you have to be apolitical. But he whispered in their ears and encouraged the better angels of their nature to stand up and say what they said, which is, please, this man is a threat to American democracy. He's a fascist. Please do not elect him. And still tens of millions of voters chose him. He sat on the shoulders of long-term and very conservative Republicans and helped them have the courage to stand up and speak up and tell you, please, I've seen this man. He is a threat to our democracy. He is cruel. He's a wannabe tyrant. Please do not put him back in office. And all these Republicans who have known these other Republicans for years ignored it and voted for him anyway. Even in the last week, we heard tapes from Jeffrey Epstein's own mouth talking about his 15-year relationship and friendship with Donald Trump. And when Jeffrey Epstein says that there's no compassion, empathy, or kindness in you, you know it's pretty bad. And still nobody cared. Nobody cared that he hung around with a pedophile, or that what he considered fun was to seduce married women, the married women of his best friends, the wives, by tricking them into getting them into say things unflattering about their wives, or to say that they would cheat on them so that he could then take them in the back and, in his words, fuck them. And these so-called Christians voted for him anyway. Donald Trump literally has espoused everything that is anti-Christian than we can even imagine. And Christians supported him. He's insulted every Latino, calling us dirtbags and slime. And Hispanics across the country, and especially Cubans, seem to think that somehow it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't mean anything to them. They heard Fidel Castro saying some of the things this guy has said about wanting to have journalists shot and killed, or a former congressman stand before a firing squad for the terrible crime of not supporting him. And God warned us about all of that. He waved his arms. He did everything he could. But we always have free will. And in spite of that, this is who we chose. So please, don't be angry at God. This isn't about God. God isn't going to save us from our own choices, because that's the whole point of this life. He wanted us to be able to identify our values and stand for them and choose him or not. And last night, tens of millions of Americans chose not. And my heart is broken because someone in Nebraska thinks that a migrant in Bakersfield who's picking lettuce is somehow the cause of all their problems. If we just gather up everyone that doesn't look like them, because you notice he never talks about white migrants. He only talks about those that are of the brown and black variety. But too many Americans like the way that sounds. I don't know what that means for our future, because I always believed that God was on the side of America. That's why we're the shining light, the beacon on the hill. Because of what we stand for, what we represent. And even though we're not perfect, we're always aspiring to that perfect union of embracing all of God's children. And instead, tens of millions, half the country, believes that it's cool with them, it's cool with God for them to talk about his children as though they're vermin. As though their very blood poisons the blood of this country when God made their blood. And so I don't know what that means for our future. And I don't know what we're going to have to go through. I do know this, that when we're lost, because God wants all of us, he doesn't stop trying to win us back. And unfortunately for the human condition, we have this terrible need to often suffer before we realize and wake up and stand up for what is right. That's why when natural disasters happen, you see people jumping into dangerous situations to help their fellow man and animals. And in that moment, they're not caring that the person is brown or black or any other color you want to affix to people or assign to people. And so I don't know what that means about what we're going to have to go through before half that country, half our beautiful country, wakes up and realizes that hating others is no basis for electing someone.